Hi. I wanted to do an episode, and I didn't get a chance to do either of my live podcasts last week, so I wanted to put one together and have another one live on Tuesday at 9:30. So, in the last episode, I talked about looking forward, and I also referenced the movie The Greatest Showman. One of the things that I didn't have time to do was also talk about one of the songs in that movie called "This Is Me," and it kind of ties into what I wanted to quickly talk about today. So it's difficult, especially being in middle school or a teenager, and fitting in, right? Because one of the things that we like to do is kind of go with the flow and be part of a group and be part of a pack, so that way you're not individually singled out. That makes things easy. Some aspects in life, as you get older, can be that way, really depending on where you live, what your career or your job is going to be, and etc. But I bring that up because, of course, it's important to have friends and cliques. This makes it easier for you to be able to kind of communicate or have someone at least to talk to or confide in, or you can be someone that someone else confides in or talks to. So that really can help. It's certainly not negative to not be part of a group because, it really depends on you and your personality. You might inherently be someone who likes to do things on their own, and not directly because of the experience that you've had with people, but just you as a person. I mean, as you grow up and as you're born and as you're being raised, depending on how you interact with family and friends and your parents, can also really determine on how you are socially developed. Now, of course, this can change over time, really depending on how you feel you want to be in a social environment. But there are some people, and I was one of them, that prefer to kind of be by myself and do things by myself. I don't know if it's because as a kid, I had a younger brother, not much younger, but so we were fairly close in age, but we were very different. And he was a sociable person, liked to, even today, likes to have a lot of friends and communicate a lot with people. And I was never like that, even as a young kid. And it makes me kind of think that that's something that I've not really talked about, as far as, should you try to find a group, or should you be worried that you're not part of a group? And the answer is no, you shouldn't be worried, because going back on what I said just a moment ago, as you get older, people tend to change schools, families tend to move, you lose contact with that person, and as you get older, you'll really start to find people that you directly relate to, and they become, in some cases, lifelong friends. And I say that because the friends that you have now, or the friends that you wish you had now, aren't really going to be, or may not be, I shouldn't say aren't going to be, may not be that really that important in your life. So don't, it's all about not changing yourself. Don't change yourself. Don't change the way you talk or the way you act or anything like that because you want to be part of this other group of people. Because, again, I'm a big person on believing you shouldn't change who you are. Modifying who you are to make you more happy is okay. Changing who you are, modifying who you are because you think that's going to help you fit in with someone else is not okay. Because again, you end up losing the side of yourself. And losing the side of yourself really takes away from you growing as a person, as an adult, as an elder, as a parent. Because if at some point in your life, if you have if you have focused and strived on being someone else, by the time you're in your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, whenever it hits you, you're going to realize that all of these years have been lost. And now you don't know what you want to do. You don't know what directly makes you happy. So now you'll start reflecting on where you are today and where you were as a kid and all these changes you made to become who you are. And in the end, it might not ultimately make you happy. And that's a key factor, because if, let's say that you want to have kids, and as you get older, you'll have children, you'll want to help raise them properly and educate them and be a mentor for them. But if you don't know who you are, it's going to make that difficult, and it's really going to become apparent, because as you go to teach your children and help them grow, you might have difficulty in doing that. That's not the topic of this story, but that's just kind of a point of many different, I could have used many different examples, and that's just one example that I went with because, let's say you do become that parent, right? And then your kids do end up going to college or leaving and getting married and move away from the house. What then? Maybe that's the moment where you realize that you've spent your entire life doing this one thing or these things for these other people, thinking that they would make you happy. And now you've raised children, hopefully wonderfully, and you're in an empty nest part of your life, and you want to determine what you want to do. Well, you might realize that you always wanted to dance or paint or become a writer or, play golf or whatever it might be. And you're going to look back and wish that you had listened to yourself and looked inward to try to find that thing at a young age and at an earlier stage in your life, because you could have taken all of this time throughout your life to enjoy what you really want to enjoy. And now you might not know what you want to enjoy right now, and of course that's a big part of life and growing up. Especially if you are in middle school or in high school and you're really trying to determine even who you are as a person, let alone what makes you happy. But I think that there are things that we carry on throughout our lives that make you happy. I mean, as a kid, you couldn't wait for your birthday to open up presents. And a lot of that comes down to, first off, not knowing what's in the box and wrapped. And secondly, hopefully you're getting something that you want. That's a simple thing in life that can carry on forever. As you get older, we typically don't have extravagant birthdays. And if we do, therefore, when you turn 30 or 40 or 50 or 60 and in these decades. And so I think a lot of people secretly wished that every birthday that they had could be like what they had as a kid. And so, it's we don't want to grow up too fast, and we always want to try to maintain something that makes us happy. So if you're the type of person who's, gotten older and you think gifts are silly, but you internally really like gifts, make yourself a gift. Go pick out something today that you think that you might want in a week, a month, or year, whatever it might be. Wrap it and put it somewhere. And hopefully you'll forget about it. And then one day you'll stumble upon it, or you set an alarm in your calendar, and you open it then. The point is, you don't have to know what makes you happy right now, but there are certain things that you can think about that made you happy as a kid, and finding ways to apply that to your life now. Because, that is something that you can carry with you throughout life, and that will help you, I hope, realize other things in life and be aware of new things that you might like to do. So, kind of to circle back from what I said in the beginning, the song "This Is Me," and I'll read just a few. I'll paraphrase parts of it because, well, for legal purposes, because I think it's relevant. Right? I know what it's like to sit in a classroom, and looking around the classroom and seeing either people talking about you or looking at groups of people that you wish you were with or that you want to be a part of. And it pains me to think that you're depressed because you're not communicating with people that you want to. I mean, if you think about it, okay, let's say that, you do end up talking with this group and being a part of the group. Well, now you've got to, and these might be things that you like to do, but you might end up having to like things or talk about things or do things that you really don't like doing only because, and only to be safe and continue to be a part of the group. You know, it's okay to be different. You don't have to like what other people like. And what happens is if you get into a particular group and then, you start doing all these different things that they want to do, you end up losing sight of yourself. So what happens at graduation? We go to different, you go to different colleges, you move to different cities. Well, now all of those times and the amount of time and years that you spent, really being a part of this group and not focusing on yourself, now you might keep in touch. I mean, of course, there's social media that makes things easy, but you're going to meet new people in a different place, in a new place, who have different experiences. And while that's great for you to grow, because we want to grow from experiences and others' life experiences, we still don't want to change who we are just because we think it might make us happy. It's difficult to not have something that you want. But a lot of it comes down to, is it really what you want? Something that I talked in earlier episodes was, you can spend your life and your savings, or, you might work at a job and save up all this money so that you can turn around and buy whatever device or object it is that you want. And in the end, did it and does it actually make you happy? I mean, it's an emotional thing to be able to set a goal and stick with that goal and achieve that goal. But did the end result actually be what you wanted it to be? And the answer might be yes, and that's fantastic. And there are going to be things in your life that you are going to strive for and save for and set a goal for and accomplish and just be completely elated that you've accomplished that goal. Don't get me wrong. But my point in saying that is that I don't want you to lose sight of you and being you and finding you, because every one of you are magnificent in your own way. And it's important that you see that. So to circle back for the third time, since I got off on another tangent, the song "This Is Me" from the Greatest Showman soundtrack, even the first paragraph, I'll read the first paragraph, and I'll read, looks like this the third paragraph, just to kind of drive a few points home. And now, yes, I know I refer to music quite a bit, and I refer to movies quite a bit, and a lot of it is written for entertainment. But again, entertainment and writing is done for a number of reasons. One is to make people feel something that they don't normally feel on a daily basis. Another reason is to maybe, from an entertainment perspective, help people escape, where they're currently at in life or stress. People listen to music to relieve stress. So I know that, this might not necessarily be someone's deep, darkest secret poem that's been released and it's taken from true experiences, but it could be. And not only that, it's made to make you think about who you are and appreciate who you are. So, with that being said, I'll read the first few paragraphs, the first and third. So it starts out with, "I'm not a stranger to the dark. Hide away, they say, because we don't want your broken parts. I've learned to be ashamed of all my scars. Run away, they say. No one will love you as you are." And then the third paragraph is, "When the sharpest words want to cut me down, I'm gonna send a flood, gonna drown them out. I am brave, I am bruised, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me." And the song continues to go on, but I love, first off, I love the fact that the song comes out with a punch. They're saying, I'm not a stranger to the dark, meaning they're not a stranger to being in their own shelter, in their own hideaway spot. So they're not a stranger to the dark. And of course, they're stating, hide away, they say, because we don't want your broken parts. But who's to determine that? Right? The people typically who are picking on you are someone who've gone through something on their own or themselves. Or they saw it on a movie or TV show or a video or what have you, and they thought it was funny. None of those make it okay. Right? A lot of it typically comes from people who have been abused in some form or fashion, whether it be at home, siblings, things of that nature. They typically tend to come from somewhere directly emotionally related to them. And they don't really know what to do with that other than regurgitate it to someone else. So, who's to say any of us have any broken parts? There's a phrase in the eye of the beholder, and that can apply to a lot of things, and it's somewhat cliche, but I do like it, right? Because what my opinion is of someone else is only my opinion, because that's in the eye of me. So keeping that in mind, when someone makes a statement towards you, about you, whatever characteristic, quality, object of yours it might be, that's an opinion. And that's only coming from them. Now, yes, of course, it makes it much more difficult to deal with when you've got one person. That one person has three friends, and those three friends have another three friends. It just becomes this, of course, loud voice that it seems that you might be running into and hearing every single day. But if you can look past that, because one person might start something out of hatred because of something that they've gone through. And because they're friends with other people, those other people might be sympathetic or sympathize or understand or relate with what their friend is going through. So then it becomes this, entire cliquish thing. So, while you might have, let's say, 5 people saying the same thing about you in a negative manner, it really only originated from one. Now, of course, they don't care because we are internalizing it because we're getting hit from all sides from 5 different people. But what you need to understand is that's really only coming from one person. And 9 times out of the 10, that one person has no idea where that's really coming from. People typically pick on people and judge other people because they're uncomfortable with themselves. And again, it's horrifically unfortunate that there are people like us that have to deal with that. But I want you to be strong, and I want you to be able to understand where these things are coming from. It's not directly directed at you. It's not like you went to their house and knocked on the door and then punched them in the face and walked away, right? If you did something like that, well, of course, they're going to retaliate and try to embarrass you just as you embarrassed them. But someone who just, for no reason, picks on someone else, it actually has nothing to do with you or that someone else. They just, this bully or this person just has no idea how to be able to handle their feelings. And it's unfortunate. And so, in this, going back to the song lyrics, right? I mean, we're talking about, if you've seen the movie, we're talking about adults and older people, but it still applies from everything. Who's to say hide away? They say, because we don't want your broken parts. That's the good thing is that by the end of this song, one of the things they say, one of the lyrics are, but I won't let them break me down to dust. I know that there's a place for us, for we are glorious. So as you listen to the song or read the lyrics, it's starting out with them recognizing that they're being picked on or bullied and things that they've dealt with their entire life. And now they're finally taking a stand because they can see that who they are is perfect. And it's something that they're finally learning to deal with. And I hope that you can start to learn to deal with these things earlier in life, because it makes it easier to handle and go throughout life. The earlier you learn this, I mean, this is one of the main reasons why it's important for you to kind of understand who you are. So I was trying to see if there's really anything else on the lyrics that I want to. Yeah, so one of the other things I'll point out, and then I'll start to bring this to a close. One of the other lines is, I've learned to be ashamed of all my scars. Run away, they say, no one will love you as you are. That saddens me, right? Because they're admitting that they've learned to be ashamed of all their scars. And no one should be, no matter what it is. No matter what it is that you think is not great about you, shouldn't exist in you. It's like I said, I'm for a very long time, when I was young, I'm very tall, I was very skinny, I had big ears, I had a big nose, and it was hard for me every day to wake up and look in the mirror and be like, well, Jesus, why have I been given this figure and this face and this body and so on and so forth. And it for the same line that they state, I've learned to be ashamed of all my scars, and that's how I was. I would wear baggy clothes because, of course, I didn't want to accentuate how skinny my legs were. They weren't overly baggy, but they were certainly comfortable. Anyway, the point is, I changed. Again, and I've mentioned this before. I don't. It's for a very long time. It was hard for me to wear shorts and to go to a pool or to go to the beach or whatever, because I, again, being tall and skinny, had skinny legs, and I got made fun of and it's called chicken legs and everything else. And it was difficult. And as I got older and I look back, I realized how uncomfortable I was for so long, because I had learned to be ashamed of my scars. And, we all have scars, whether they be emotional, physical, or just an aspect of what we think is a scar when we look at ourselves in the mirror. See, here's the other thing, especially for those of you who are young, you don't know how your body is going to turn out. I mean, of course, you can, look at your parents, but then that isn't always a determining factor. I mean, think about it. Take a look at what your baby pictures look like, and then take a look at your pictures 10 years later, or look at your pictures and compare yourself now. Yes, there are similarities, But there's a vast difference. Now, of course, you're not going to go from being an infant to, where you are in your teens, from your teens to where you'd be, let's say, in your 20s and 30s. But there is still going to be a drastic difference. You're going to start to change. So when you take a look at who you are in the mirror and what you think is an imperfection, I can tell you it's not. And it might seem like that now because it might be so blatantly obvious. And it can be, I know, again, very difficult to try to overlook those things. But just like people, your life changes. Your physical appearance changes. Now, yes, there are things you can do to change certain aspects. You might think that because my legs were skinny and I got picked on, I focused on my legs and became an athlete. Or, I really worked out and, got big legs and muscular legs and now I wear shorts all the time. That's not the case because I refused to change who I was just so I could feel comfortable about not people picking on me. So, there are things that you can do that might make you feel better. If working out or doing something athletic makes you feel good about yourself as well as changing a certain physical aspect about it, that's fine because, of course, exercise is healthy. But don't make it your primary focus because then it's going to go back to, all right, you didn't like something about yourself or something that somebody said. You spent all these years working out, spent all this time changing your eating habits and starving yourself or whatever it might be, or overeating yourself. Again, a year later, 2 years later, 3 years later, how much money and time did you spend in this effort for something that you did for somebody else? Now, if it was for you directly, please, by all means, continue to do that. But if it's not, in the beginning, it might be difficult to determine if you're doing it for you or for someone else. And that's just something that you kind of have to weigh on your own. But if you're miserable doing it, even though you see results, then that's really up to you to determine if that's something that you want to continue to do. So again, I feel like I say the point in all this is, but the point in all of this is, for this topic is, again, not changing who you are and dealing with your scars. I got older. My legs naturally got proportionate to my body. And it's just how life can change. So, don't be a person who, to kind of recap, don't be the type of person who sits in their chair in the classroom and admires people around you. If anything, people should be admiring you. And I mean that literally. Maybe that's something that you can start to think about yourself as you're sitting there looking around and wishing you were part of another group or talking to somebody you really want to talk to. You should really think about how lucky they would be to talk to you. Because you are important. You're very important, especially to yourself and especially to the world around you. So don't think about other people in an aspect of you changing you. Don't look in the mirror and think, I need to get a nose job, or I need to pierce my ear 100 times, or I need to whatever it might be. Plastic surgery. Don't do it. I strongly believe that. Because I want you to recognize how beautiful you are. And I want you to recognize how important you are. And all these other people around you can appreciate you. They can completely ignore you. But you need to focus on making you, and realizing that you're the most important thing in your life. Now, of course, there's family and things like that, but I'm talking about in the aspect of really focusing on you. So be proud and say, this is me. You don't have any scars. You have nothing to realize. Just look inside and try to find the happiness in you, regardless of what anybody else or what other people might think about what makes you happy. You're what matters. Well, it's just over 30 minutes, so I'll go ahead and end this. And I'll do an episode Tuesday evening at 9:30. I hope this was helpful. Please, you can certainly chat with me when I'm live. You can send me an email at lifeliveseries@gmail.com. Everything I will keep anonymous, so if there's anything you want me to talk about or discuss or anything like that, let me know. Thank you very much for your time, and please take care of yourself.